بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سالهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور آمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذراكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Hassan, thank you for the wonderful recitation, Sheikh Badri. Assalamu alaikum to everybody, and thank you all for coming to our Muharram lecture series titled The Qur'an's Morality for Contemporary Society Through the Eyes of Imam al-Husayn. This year's lecture series is sponsored on behalf of the marhumeen displayed on the TV screens. Please can we recite a Surah Fatiha for them and all our marhumeen. Al-Fatiha. If you would like to donate towards the remaining Muharram program, which is just tomorrow, you can donate at the foyer by the entrance. In terms of a fire exit, we have one here at the back of the chapel, the entrance, and then the double doors by the dining hall. The conference room is also available for parents with young kids. To ensure there's no disruption in the program, can please all parents ensure that the kids are not playing in the corridors or making excessive noise during the program. Starting from Tuesday, 23rd of July, 2024, AMI will be hosting a weekly Quranic circle led by AMI faculty to explore the deeper meanings of the Qur'an and to understand the profound insights it offers to humanity. To register, please scan the QR code on the TVs. This year, we're also collecting funds for our Gaza appeal. We're trying to help and donate towards food supplies, medical aid, and clean water for those suffering towards Gaza. You can donate towards this cause by the entrance. Additionally, Time for Change, in conjunction with al-Husayn, will be running a food drive for the homeless on Ashura, which is tomorrow, in Birmingham City Centre. To donate towards this cause, you can speak to either Muhammad Moti or Sister Zinat, or you can scan the QR code on the TV screens. During these 10 days, we have a special offer on Sheikh Arif's Islam and God Centricity series of books. You can purchase the entire series for £40 or buy a book for £8 each. Tomorrow's Ashura program will start at 12 p.m. with Amals, Zohar and Asr Namaz, Murshia, the lecture by Dr. Imranali Panjwani, Matam, Ziyarat and Niyaz at 3 p.m. The Sham-e Ghariba program will then follow at 4 p.m. with Quran recitation, Murshia, lecture, Matam and Ziyarat, ending at 5:15 p.m. So before we proceed, and I call Dr. Imranali forward, can please all move as far forward as possible with 3 loud salawats. And with that, I invite Dr. Imranali to come and deliver his lecture on translating Quranic spirituality in an AI and technological world. Salawat, can please move forward.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات please اللهم صل على ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب صلوات please Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters, inshallah. As it is, of course, the night of Ashura, that sadness immediately begins, or more so, when we commemorate Ashura tomorrow. And that sadness, of course, is with the death of Ali al-Asghar, alayhi salam. And although I will do the Maqtal later on, but in reading the Maqtal yesterday and today, he is described in Ziyaratul Nahiya as Assalamu ala Radi' as-Saghir, that he, peace be upon you, O suckling infant or nursing child, meaning that this dear Shaheed was not even of that capability to fight, and yet an arrow struck him that the blood of Ali al-Asghar not just covered him, but covered the dear palms of al-Husayn alayhi salam. I begin with that because for all of us, whatever sacrifice we can make in our life for the sake of justice, inshallah, Allah give us the strength to do so. Salawat, please. And I just, because obviously tomorrow will basically be Maqtal, so I just want to give my thanks to Al-Mahdi Institute, to Ruxana, to Adam, Shabir, all people involved in the program. I'm probably missing people out, the volunteers, the people who cook, the people in the car park. Allah bless you all, and Allah bless this place and all centers of learning, inshallah. Please also forgive me for my shortcomings if I have said anything or done anything to offend you, as hopefully you get to know me now. I just speak from my heart, so whether that's good, bad, I don't know. I'm just saying it. And also like to thank my uncle and auntie, because they've hosted me, and just people have dropped me and things like that. So God bless them all. Salawat, please. So this is the concluding topic, and I think it's important to give a few minutes summary before I deal with the end sort of issue. We have basically said over these 9 lectures, by grace of Allah, that in reading the Qur'an, it's important to look at the way it was revealed, not compiled. And I shared with you that terminology, sulukun nuzul, the way or manner of revelation, from Surah Al-Alaq and Surah Al-Qalam, Surah Al-Muzzammil, Surah Al-Muddathir. If you read the Qur'an like that, rather than Surah Al-Fatiha and Baqarah, etc., then we begin to really see who our beloved Prophet was. And we said, as per exactly the Qur'an, Ana bashurun mithlukum. I'm a human being like all of you. That powerful statement demonstrates that we can learn from the Prophet's suffering, distress, anxiety, when he needed to be patient, and when he found strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially, for example, from Salatul Layl, which is why it was revealed. And the last few nights, we said that perhaps some of our theological doctrines, as much as we may respect all of our scholars, perhaps some of those doctrines made the Prophet in a superhuman capacity that put a distance between us and the Prophet. I have children, you have children, and inshallah, maybe one of the first things in our mind in raising them is, you are Muslim because you follow and love Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. But in order for them to feel love and say, what should I do in my situation? We have to explore those human limitations of Prophet and Imams, which the Quran is absolutely clear about. I gave the example of Yunus alayhi salam getting angry, leaving his community. Same thing with Prophet Musa alayhi salam having an altercation with an opponent. Adam alayhi salam going to the tree. All of this are laid for us to learn from. And yesterday I said that in order for us to actually appreciate the Prophet's taklif or responsibility, we have to look at his role practically in society. The example I gave was him in his 20s or 30s before revelation, witnessing or participating in the gathering known as Hilful Fudul, Pact of Justice, where he, along with tribal elders and idol worshippers, said that we will protect and support any oppressed person in Makkah, telling us that justice was arguably the foundation of our beloved Prophet's message. And therefore, I want to conclude this topic by dealing with two very important things. What exactly is the role of Prophet in relation to us? Is the Prophet there for us to bestow salawat on him and only upon him and his family? So whenever we hear his name, we give salawat. Yes, no problem. I love to do that. Allah shower blessings on Muhammad and his family. But what was the specific role of the Prophet in guiding us to reform society? That's the question I want to answer. And two, how did he do this in his society? If we have time, I don't know if we'll have time, because I have other lectures prepared, but I've just ignored them now. So I'm just doing what I can. Two things I want to tackle, which is the concept of khulud. Khulud means lasting forever, remaining forever. We often associate khulud with the akhirah, that Jannah is everlasting, or your deeds will result in everlasting goodness and reward for you. But that wasn't the concept in the Arab society at the time of the Prophet. And the other is asabiya, or kind of group solidarity, and if you like, tribalism. And the reason I chose those two is because one is, as I mentioned the last few nights, artificial intelligence, technology, social media is an attraction for us, and I'm not saying necessarily it's bad. All I'm saying is that attraction makes us think of immediate pleasure. What can I watch for those couple of hours? No problem. But that immediate pleasure sometimes may block us from thinking about the akhirah. I'm giving a very direct example because the Arabs of that time engaged in lahu. Lahu, as it is in Sutul Jumu'ah, that lahu means entertainment, amusement, and distraction. So that kind of amusement and distraction, how did the Prophet nurture Arabs to think more about their deeds? You and I always need reminding to do good deeds, inshallah. And the other is this tribalism, which I have been saying resulted in bloodshed. I gave that example of sermon of Imam Ali. This is very interesting because we sometimes say that the Prophet removed tribalism from society, like we may teach in madrasa. Like he came there and he told people, don't follow your tribe, follow Allah. Don't follow your tribal elder. No need to seek revenge. Be forgiving and merciful to each other. However, in the time of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and maybe this is not often talked about, but this is in Maqtal al-Husayn by Khwarizmi. Imam Hussein, on his route to Karbala, all right, he was making decisions as to the best route to take because he was trying to answer the call of the Kufans. But the Kufans let him down. So then he had to think what to do, perhaps change course, but still communicate with people. In one of the letters he wrote, which is recorded in that Maqtal, he communicates or writes a letter to the people of Basra. Now, in the people of Basra, they were governed by what was known as the Al-Akhmas. The Al-Akhmas were the 5 tribal divisions that controlled Basra. So when he was writing letters to people saying, look, answer my call, I am the grandson of Rasulullah, don't follow Yazid ibn Muawiyah. When he was saying these things through his messengers, these letters were not just going to like a group of people. Like sometimes we might make history very simplistic. We say, well, if I was there in Karbala, if I was there in Kufa, I would have stand up for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Right? We sometimes say these things, even for example in Noha or Marthia, sometimes these things come out. Actually, the history was much more complex than that. First and foremost is that if we were in Kufa, would we follow Ibn Ziyad, the governor at that time, or would we follow Imam Hussain alayhi salam? Would what our wives say matter to us more than Imam Hussain alayhi salam? I'm not criticizing women. I'm telling you like a real scenario, real challenge. And I gave the example of the Prophet eating or drinking honey, and the other wives were displeased about it, right? So the people of Kufa were not just people of Kufa just living together, it's wives, children, work, livelihood. So now if your wife or children are saying, don't go and support Imam Hussain, just stay here because we don't want you to die. Okay, it's a very natural request. I'm not blaming anybody. That natural request, Imam Hussain was telling the people, don't listen to your family or Ibn Ziyad or what matters to you in terms of your immediate pleasure. Listen to the call of Allah. Listen to my call as I am representing Rasulullah, the very person who you believe in. So it's not as simple as that. And in Basra, remember, it wasn't just one group of people, there were different tribes there. So when the letters are reaching there, well, at the end of the day, one tribe might say something different to another tribe. And how do you get a message across to different tribes? It's a very difficult challenge. You know, I'm giving this very small majlis. Okay, some of you may agree, disagree. It is on YouTube. Okay, I don't really follow much what happens there, but okay, people listen, agree, disagree, whatever. So I am doing my best. Hopefully you can say I try to choose my words carefully. I'm trying to be clear. I'm asking you. Now, how much do I try? As much as I can, inshallah. Even as much as I try, people may reject, disagree, agree, no problem. Now you're talking about Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Hussain, the grandson of Rasulullah, an articulate, intelligent person with great moral capability and great courage, no fear. So when he is communicating to the people of Basra, we have to understand that Imam Hussain alayhi salam is trying his best, but tribes may still reject his message based on tribal consensus, tribal divisions, or tribal objectives in that city. Now you look today. Today, do we have tribal divisions? In some respects, yes, we do. We have class divisions. We have upper class, middle class, working class or lower class. I mean, you can do 4 or 5 divisions, or you can just divide it into upper and middle and working. Depends. Welfare class. You have different political parties, which you all know. Conservative, Labour, Independent, Liberal Democrats, whatever. 3, which I want to try to tackle, you have race, right? You have African, you have white, you have Chinese, you have brown, you have this, you have that, all right? You then have different cultures, okay? Indian, Pakistani, Iraqi, Irani, Lebanese, whatever. Now, all of these things which were there in Imam Husayn's time, it wasn't just Arabs, there were also other cultures, and there were other tribes. What I feel, this is when I read the history of Imam Husayn in Islam, what I feel we need to learn from is, how did our beloved Prophet, peace upon him, and Imam Husayn alayhi salam break through those divisions, not by denying them, by the way, not by saying, renounce your Indian identity or Arab identity, Iranian identity, no. How do you break through those divisions that you say, right, we all need to be united for the sake of Allah, for the sake of a better society? I was very open yesterday. I said that South Africans took Israel to court, not Arab nations, not Muslim nations. So the simple lesson from there is, how come currently so-called Islamic countries are disunited or concerned with political interests? Number one. Number two, I'll give you a more example from home, basically. We left the European Union, yes? Brexit, which I teach EU law at the university. We left European Union, right? Now, that concept of having a European Union was what? I'm not trying to treat you as undergraduates, but do you know the objectives of EU? Anybody? What was the point of European Union? It's not just you get a nice visa, you can go to Italy easily and all that, but what is the point of EU? Anybody? Sorry? Trade, mashallah, trade, exactly. Trade, free market, exchange of goods, freedom of movement of workers, freedom of movement of families and migration. Not only that, I don't know if you notice in shops, when you have that EU type logo, you know that the good has been checked, right, for health issues, health problems, or contamination, or safety. That EU safety logo guarantees that the good that comes in the country is safe, and there's no hazardous materials or things like that associated. Now, we've left all that, right? I'm saying to you, and I gave this point yesterday, I said, you do not require the Qur'an to tell you what is just or unjust. That is in our fitrah, and I proved it also through the Prophet in the Helpful Fudul. European Union is a highly advanced union of countries. In order to ensure fairness and justice in tijara, I'm using the word tijara purposefully, because we say the Prophet was a tajir, don't we? And we always say, look how Prophet was al-Amin and as-Sadiq. We always say this, right? So, why didn't Muslims come up with a EU or a Muslim EU? Where is it? We have Cairo Declaration of Human Rights. I think it is dated 1990, if I'm correct. That Cairo Declaration of Human Rights, if I'm correct, is the only human rights instrument that Muslims have in the world. And if you read it, by the way, in some respects, it's a very poorly drafted instrument. Very poorly drafted. If you compare it to all human rights legislations, it's poorly drafted because it doesn't actually respect the rights of women. It doesn't actually guarantee sort of egalitarian and equality amongst different races and creeds. And when it says that we are governed by Sharia, I'm posing a question, whose Sharia are we talking about? Shia, Sunni, Zaidi, Ismaili, whose Sharia are we talking about exactly? Do you see the problem that we have here? So that answers, I'm hoping, the question in your minds, why didn't Muslims go and defend Palestine in court? Because we don't have a conception of Muslim political unity that cuts through all of that races, cultures, and tribal divisions, which I said. We don't have that concept. It's not there. So whenever we might fight amongst each other and Muslims kill each other, and I'm not saying it's completely their fault. Was very honest. I said Western colonialism and their supplying of arms. I'm being very fair. All I'm saying is that if you look around the world, I'm giving example of EU, I'm not saying that's perfect, but I'm saying some notion of that is something we need to strive for based on the Prophet's model of tijara and the Prophet's practical role in society in removing these kinds of divisions. Salawat, please. And here is a verse of the Quran which inshallah makes this clear for you. Okay, this is Surah An-Nisa verse 135. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, addressed to us. Yes, I have the verse addressed to human beings. This is addressed to Amanu. Ya ayyuhalladina amanu. Ya ayyuhalladina amanu. Kunu qawwamina bil qist. Shuhada Allah, shuhada lillahi walau ala anfusikum awil walidaini wal akrabain. You've all heard the start of the verse before. O you who have faith, be maintainers of justice and witnesses for the sake of Allah. For the sake of Allah, even if it is against yourselves and against your parents, even against your parents and your near relatives. So even if our respected parents or relatives are doing something unjust, we have no right to defend them. And even against ourselves. And then look at the beauty here. Allah says, and whether it be for someone who is rich or poor, for Allah has a greater right over them. So do not follow your desires, lest you be unfair. Otherwise you'll be unfair. And if you distort the testimony or disregard it, Allah is indeed well aware of what you do. This verse of the Quran that is revealed to Rasulullah is coming to teach us to put aside desires and self-interest, much needed in the Muslim world and global world today, even including Western countries that are defending Zionist governments. And number two, this verse is coming after Hilful Fudul, that pact of justice. So it means this verse is only reflecting the Prophet's fitrah, his inclination and love for justice as Muhammad. Muhammad loves justice, and therefore that Muhammad, I'm using it purposefully, goes to cave of Hira, receives revelation through angel Jibreel, and such verses are revealed. That is what we've been saying. These verses are reflecting the Prophet's fitrah, experience, juhud, striving for Allah, and that thinking of reforming the society. Salawat, please. And I want to answer that question I posed to you, because I said, what's the role of the Prophet, right? And again, you might say, well, Allah sent prophets to guide us. That's a normal answer. We are to recite salawat on them. And the prophets contain that knowledge that we don't have. Actually, the answer is much deeper than that. It's in fact an answer said in public by Imam al-Islam in Sermon 1 of Nahjul Balagha. And I'm just reading a few lines to you because it's very, very beautiful. Imam Ali says the following. He says, فَبَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رُسُلَ وَوَتَارَ إِلَيْهِمْ أَنْبِيَاءَ. Take off my glasses again. He said, so he sent to them, or sent for them, his messengers, and series, وَوَتَارَ إِلَيْهِمْ أَنْبِيَاءَ, and series of prophets to them. So Imam Ali says, Allah sent messengers and prophets to people. We all accept that. It's what we teach in Usul ad-Din in Madrasa. The question is why? Why send prophets anyway, right? The answer is very interesting. It is لِيَسْتَأْدُوهُمْ مِيثَاقَ فِطْرَتِهِ وَيُذَكِّرُوهُمْ مَنْسِيَ نِعَمَتِهِ. In order to claim from people that mithaq, that covenant of his creation. For prophets to remind us the covenant that we have with Allah as our creator. He is our creator, not an idol, which is what we've been discussing the last few days. Ad, Thamud, the Prophet society, they forgot that Allah created them. And to remind us of those forgotten blessings of Allah. Subhanallah. The blessing that I can move my hand, that my tongue flaps, that I can see. Whatever blessing it is, the prophets came to remind us of the blessings. Now look at today. As I said, fighting in Muslim countries, on the need for unity. Have we forgotten that the prophets came to those regions? Have we forgotten that the prophet tried to remove tribal divisions? See what has happened in humanity. And then, وَيَحْتَجُّ عَلَيْهِمْ بِالتَّبْلِيغِ, and to dispute or debate with people in the prophet's propagation. That means the prophets are there to debate and dispute and argue with us about our false claims. But the most important one, which I feel is not often said from the member or in the community, the most important one, which is وَيُثِيرُ لَهُمْ دَفَائِنَ الْأُقُولِ, and to unveil for us, or for them, the people, to unveil for us the buried treasures of wisdom, or our hidden intellect. That last sentence is the most important one. Prophets came to unearth the treasure inside of me and you, that intellect we have, that wisdom we have, that we can use to also reform society. That's why we have some ahadith where prophets, anbiya, are described as external prophets or outer prophets. And this intellect we have inside of us, that aql, is described as a inner prophet. I have an inner prophet and so do you. And the only reason our beloved prophet, peace upon him, came as the outer prophet, as the human being, is to say, look, you are better than all of this, you are better than your fighting. You can look after the orphans and you can treat each other kindly, you don't have to worship idols. Once people realized that, what happened? Well, society started to progress, inshallah. So actually, when we had those discussions, some people asked that, what kind of station and maqam can we reach? It's unfair for us that we are not a prophet. Allah never selected us, right? These were some of the Q&A that we had. Well, actually, no. According to Imam Ali, the Prophet wants us to strive for as higher position as possible to actualize those buried treasures, that intellect that we have. That's Imam Ali saying this in public. He's not saying this to a few people, he's saying this publicly, giving us confidence and potential for us to improve. Salawat, please. So I want to give, inshallah, 2 examples. I hope there's time. And the first example is that challenge which the Prophet had, the first challenge was for people simply to do good deeds. I know it sounds like a very simple thing, like telling the truth and not lying, not being hypocritical. Those things which it appears people had forgotten, they had forgotten because, and this argument is not from me, it's from a scholar called Toshiko Izitsu in his book Ethical Religious Concepts of the Qur'an. It's online and you can buy it, you can maybe in the AMI library, it's there, okay? He makes a very interesting point. He says that the Arabs of that time simply needed a redefinition of the words and customs they were involved in. Khulud, which means something remaining and lasting like Jannah or our good deeds, in the Arab society of that time, khulud meant that the world they lived in was the only world that was there. Maybe there was some kind of concept of hereafter, but it didn't appear to be widespread. So they used to say, we will hoard wealth, we will engage in excess of wine drinking and using women, because we might as well have pleasure while we live. It was said in Surah Al-Fajr that the people in Jahannam regret, alas, ya laytani, I wish that I had put forward good deeds in my life. In Surah Al-Fajr, yes, if you remember. So the Arabs at that time had an issue, which is their lives were based on short-term goals, not long-term thinking of the Akhirah. And I'll give you a few verses just to explain this. In fact, we recite this in Surah Al-Jumu'ah. And I know, we mashallah come on Fridays. Maybe we don't explore what the meaning of Surah Al-Jumu'ah or Jumu'ah means. Here is verse 8. Look at what Allah says. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ ثُمَّ تُرَدُّونَ إِلَى عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. We recite this every Friday. Say, indeed that death, the death from which you flee, indeed it will meet you. The Arabs didn't want to die. they were scared of death. So this verse is revealed to teach people death is going to meet you. Then you will be returned to the knower of the unseen and the witness. He will inform you about what you used to do. Now I do hope that Friday prayer becomes more meaningful for all of us. It's a reminder of death, and we can forget that. So the biggest issue in that society was, we don't want to meet death, actually we'll focus on the immediate pleasures. And that should teach us that lesson from Karbala. Al-Husayn ibn Ali al-Islam, according to my readings, was not afraid of death, he was not afraid of dying, and he was not afraid of being martyred. According to my small readings, he wasn't. He did care for his family. He was afraid that something would happen to his family. Yes, like we recite in the Maqtal. He didn't want Qasim alayhi salam to die, or Ali al-Akbar or Ali Asghar. He didn't take them to their death, because that is unfair, that's unjust of Al-Husayn to do that. And that's why he was always trying to avoid that suffering for his family. It's a different point to say that people said, I support you, my uncle, as they said, Ali al-Akbar saying, or Qasim saying, no, I'm going to defend my uncle. There, arguably, he's giving that option of taklif for people. That's different. But he's not willingly taking people to death. But Imam Hussein himself, that bravery is even, in fact, there are reports about this in Kitab al-Ishad and Maqtal al-Husayn Khwarizmi, that when al-Husayn goes on the battlefield, people, few of the soldiers, they're not astounded by his physical bravery. That is there. We often give a lot of stories about this. Some fabricated and inshallah some authentic. The real bravery that they say is they are astounded that this man is coming alone, is resolute, even though a number of his family members and his ashab have been killed. They're astounded that he's actually coming there and still ready to pick up the sword. That is the maqam and beauty of Al-Husayn alayhi salam. I hope you can see the relevance of this verse, inshallah. Salawat. And this verse, which is very important, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا فَضُّوا إِلَيْهَا وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا قُلْ مَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ مِنَ اللَّهْوِ وَمِنَ التِّجَارَةِ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. We all recite this on Friday. But when they saw a transaction, yes, tijara, or a lahu, diversion, amusement, distraction, oh Muhammad, they rushed to it. They rushed to that and left you standing. Perhaps like the people of Kufa. Say, what is with Allah is better than diversion, lahu, and tijara, transaction, trade, and Allah is the best of providers. So the Kufan people rushed to distraction. They had weak resolve. Muslim countries themselves today rush to what is amusement and distraction instead of standing up for Palestinian rights. So Allah is saying, but look, what is with Allah is better than these things, and Allah is the best of providers. Look at the beauty of this verse. Every Friday we are reminded that Allah is a Razik, okay, a Razak, sorry, and not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever is with Him is better than sometimes our worries and anxieties. I remind myself first, inshallah, all of us. So the first biggest issue for the Prophet was, how does he change people's thinking to think about deeds, caring for each other, building a worldly society that was rooted in godliness? That's why I said in the last few nights that these sometimes disputes that we have in theology, right? Did Prophet know X, Y, and Z, or he didn't know X, Y, and Z? All right? Or for example, what's the best way to perform our rituals or amals? I said, sometimes these discussions and disputes that we have actually distract us from building that real society. And inshallah, I've given you some proof there. Salawat, please. And the last thing that I want to say, I think I have 10 minutes or so only, and don't keep your time. We have a verse in Suratul Hujurat, which you have all heard of, okay? Salawat, please. Now, the verse I gave previously about justice was addressed to the believers, okay? This verse is addressed to people. Allah says in Suratul Hujurat, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha waja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum innallaha alimun khabir. O humankind, forget believers, forget sex, culture, race, color of skin. O humankind, indeed we created you from a male and a female and made you nations and tribes. Why? Not so to fight, so that we may recognize each other, identify each other. Indeed, the noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the most God-wary amongst you. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. Now, I have tafsir in my notes, and I do want to give you a few principles, not everything, but just take that verse even without any tafsir. What are we finding? Number one, that it is purposeful that we are created differently. That is a purpose by Allah. Sometimes we like to say we want to be the same, or in one community sometimes have the same food, or why can't everything be the same? That's not the purpose of Allah. Allah has created us differently, number one. Number two, we are created as male and female. We are created with tribes and nations. But why? So that we recognize each other, we learn from each other, in order, and in the tafsir, not to become superior to one another. That's it. That's the only reason why your faces and my face is different, why the skin color or background is different. That I cannot claim superiority over you, and you cannot over me. No country, culture, nation can ever claim that. Number one. And number two is, the noblest people are the ones who have taqwa, are the most God-conscious, not the ones who are identifying through nationalism or pride or especially in this verse, lineage. This verse was revealed because in the Prophet's time, the Arabs used to tell somebody like Bilal, okay, that African slave, Bilal, or Salman Farsi, or other slaves, or even women. The Arabs used to say, we are superior to you. That is why when Bilal goes up to do adhan, even the Muslim Arabs, the Arabs who have just converted to Islam, say, how can you allow this African person to give adhan? How can you allow? And we even have reports that I've read reports, I think in Tuhaful Uqul and Al-Kafi, that they were making fun of him, of the way he used to recite Seen and Sheen, if I'm correct. So even at that time, Prophet is there, they still have an issue of somebody coming up. Okay? Number two is that even in that society, there was an issue of masculinity and obviously being feminine as well. This verse was revealed in Majmal Bayan that every person comes from Adam and Hawa. Adam and Hawa. Now here is a beautiful point. In their essence, in their soul, in their fundamental capability, in their ability to reach spiritual and intellectual positions, there is no difference between a man and a woman. This is the tafsir Majmul Bayan. They said if a man thinks that he is superior to a woman, and a woman thinks superior to a man, because that's that trend nowadays as well. Okay, I'm a bit scared now. So I've read some forums where men are being bullied by their wives, by the way. It does exist. Anyway, it's like retribution for the last centuries of what men did to women. But no gender can claim superiority. Why? We all descend from Adam and Hawa, all of us. And not only that, in the Prophet's time, you'll be surprised to find that this verse isn't just about lineage and tribes and superiority, it's also about geography, quite interestingly. In fact, I'll read you exactly what is in the tafsir. Some interpret that the shu'ub, the nations, meant non-Arab or foreign nations. We know in that time, there was the Persian Empire and the Byzantines. So when Allah is saying that, look, I've created these nations, right? It may refer to the powerful nations like the Persians and the Byzantines at the time that eventually fell into destruction. But the Qaba'il relates to the Arab tribes specifically, and those Arab tribes, in fact, were Mudar and Rabi'ah. Mudar and Rabi'ah were major tribes, and from them you had smaller tribes. You also had tribes known as the Al-Asbat, the Bani Israel. So this verse is talking to three categories of people. It's talking to those foreign leaders, those major powers that maybe we have today, like America as an example, or China as now a major power. The verse is talking to the major superpowers. Salawat, please. Ali Muhammad. Clearly they're spying, I don't know. And number two, it is talking about the Arab tribes. Okay, what's the correlation today? Our communities, maybe Muslim communities, I don't know. Arab, Iranian, Lebanese, Indian, Pakistani, whatever. And then is talking about the Bani Israel, the children of Israel of that time, or Israel of that time, whereby they claimed superiority of religion on the basis that their prophet was their only prophet and no other prophet would come afterwards. What it tells us is two very important things. Our beloved prophet, peace be upon him, had to change the psychology and mentality of people, to increase their confidence that they could be like him, which sometimes we still have an issue with today. And three, it had to speak to the powers and tribes of the day. Look how powerful the Quranic message is. I think it's wonderful. These verses are not just for tilawah, for recitation. we should be able to build our political theories from these verses. Why not? Why can't Surah Al-Hujurat be a basis for creating that Muslim trade union, Muslim political union? Why not? I've never seen it. I've never seen this verse used in generally global Muslim organizations. Please correct me, but at least in human rights and economics generally, I have not seen it today. So what it tells us is, I think, and I'll end with this conclusion, inshallah, it's my small dua for myself, for all of us. If we can, put some difference of opinion aside, okay, in fiqh, in theology, different lecturers, what is said from the mimbar, or some maybe small issues in maybe community and cultures, if one day we can just put this aside, one day, inshallah, and we just start to think, right, how can we protect each other? How can we help each other? How can I make your life better and you make my life better? How can we improve our education? How can we get supplies into Palestine? I pray for the day that occurs. Inshallah, And one of the litmus tests, I used to tell my father or my family is that, Thursday we see question time, yes? I pray for the day that Muslims can have question time. I really pray that, really. Because I think if we have question time now, people will die. But if we have question time where you can have a difference of opinion, and people can raise their hands, and nobody has to be banned and ostracized and called kafir, and you are of a different sect. If one day we can have a Muslim mature question time, right? Where you have all scholars, all leaders there. And the scholars are humble, right? To be with the people, right? They're not living in a different country. They are coming here, or we are going there, and we're having a conversation. And we say, look, why have you derived this fiqh ruling? I agree or disagree. What's your reason? It's causing a problem for me. I'm giving an example. Or I don't understand this doctrine of theology. Do I believe that the Prophet has this much ilm al-ghayb or this much ilm al-ghayb? I don't know. Or why can't we do one, Eid together? Or Shias and Sunnis, why can't, you can disagree, but let's agree on X, Y, and Z. I'm praying for the day we can have that mature, open discussion. With respect to each other, we don't have to agree on everything, but at least we can kind of say, okay, let's agree on X, Y, and Z. That is my dua. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, your lifetime, inshallah. But let us pray through this azah that we do, through this remembrance of Karbala, where the caravan of Husayn alayhi salam was welcome for everybody. He did not care about deen, he did not care about religion and sect and where you're from. He said, if you are ready to stand with me, I welcome you in my caravan. That was the call of al-Husayn alayhi salam. Allah bless and elevate al-Husayn and his family. Salawat. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Assalamu ala radi'is saghir. Peace be upon you, O suckling infant, that you barely had months in you, years in you, that you, O Ali Asghar, our beloved infant, still required the milk of your mother. But what did you taste? Karbala. Assalamu ala al-Husayn wa awlad al-Husayn wa ashab al-Husayn. Peace be upon you, O Husayn, who had to bear this tragedy. Peace be upon the children of Husayn. Peace be upon the companions of Al-Husayn alayhi salam. In the reports from Kitab al-Irshad and Tariq al-Tabari, that on the day of Ashura, Al-Husayn alayhi salam is leaving his tent. Some reports say that he wanted to kiss Ali al-Asghar before he goes to the battlefield. Other reports say that he had this child in his hand coming out of the tent or going to the battlefield, as a sign that it would be mercy or have mercy on this child, telling the enemy, surely, surely, even if you have enmity with me, you cannot have enmity with an infant. In whatever case, he calls out to Lady Zainab, Salamullahi alayha, oh my beloved sister Zainab, please bring Ali al-Asghar to me that I may kiss his cheeks. For I do not know that I will see him again, just as I cannot see Qasim and Ali al-Akbar and Abbas alayhimus salam. At that point, Lady Zainab gives that beautiful infant to al-Husayn alayhi salam. As he is holding Ali al-Asghar, he goes to kiss the cheeks of Ali al-Asghar. No sooner did he kiss the cheeks that Hurmala shot an arrow into the throat of Ali al-Asghar. My dear mothers, my dear sisters who have gone through the pangs of birth, you tell me, how big is the throat or neck of a baby? It is barely the size of your palm. So when an arrow is going through the throat of Ali al-Asghar, it is tearing the throat. It is tearing the throat that there isn't anything left of that beautiful infant. As Hussein's lips goes to kiss the cheeks, his lips are filled with blood. Ali al-Asghar is covered in blood. He tells the enemies, woe to you, woe to you. He says, and this is exactly what he says, وَانْتَقِمْ لَنَا مِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. He says, have, O Allah, make revenge for us, avenge for us on these people who are so oppressive. He calls out to the skies. He says, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, please avenge us, for these people are so oppressed. Ya Allah, give me sabr to bear this tragedy. As now he is holding the child, Lady Zainab and the mother of Ali al-Asghar realize that that child is no more, that the tears of the child are no more, that the cries of the infant are no more, that he has not been given water. Please tell me how one should bear this tragedy. My dear brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, what capability did Al-Husayn alayhi salam and the mothers of Karbala have to bear the death of their infants and their children? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Rabbana la taj'alna ma'a qawmi zalimin. Oh Allah, bless Hussein alayhi salam and his family. Oh Allah, bless the mothers of Karbala, the children and infants of Karbala. Oh Allah, we have our children here today. We have babies or young children here today. Oh Allah, let us remind them that you have given them and you have given us breath. And that breath was not there for that dear infant. Oh Allah, give us the strength to learn from these great saints. And forgive our sins that we may, inshallah, reform our societies in the way of your beloved Prophet and your grandson, inshallah. Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Matam al-Husayn. Ya Husayn. Ya Husayn. Ya Husayn. Ya Husayn. Ya Husayn.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
आले इमरान कहाँ और जिल्दान कहाँ, मुझ पे है तिश्ना लबी, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही, तू ना आया गाजी। हमको पानी ना मिले तेरी खुशबू तो रहे, तेरे बाजू ना कटे चाहे मशकी जाछी दे, ये मगर हो ना सका तेरे बाजू हैं जिदा, मुझ पे है तिश्ना लबी, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही, तू ना आया गाजी। धूप में तू था शजर, तुझसे आबाद था घर, है बरहना मेरा सर, क्या करूं तुझको खबर। ऐ अलमदारे वफा इस शहर में ना तेरा, मुझ पे है तिश्ना लबी, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही, तू ना आया गाजी। क्या कहूँ शेर मेरे बेरिदा हमको लिए, ये मुसलमान सारे शहर दर शहर गए, खलकते कूफा कभी, खलकते शाम कभी, और हम पे है हंसी, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही, तू आया गाजी। कितनी बेबस थी बहन ऐ शहनशाह वफा, नाम ले ले के मेरा जब ये जालिम ने कहा, नाज था जिस पे तुझे अब बुलाओ ना उसे, और मैं रोती रही, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी तू ना आया, कैद खाने में कज़ा जब सकीना को मिली, दे के कुर्ते का कफन बच्ची दफनाई गई, उस घड़ी नाम तेरा सूरत नादे अली, दुख में दोहराती रही, तू ना आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही, बहू लाडली हाँ मैं बाबेदी, हो बहू लाडली हाँ मैं बाबेदी, हो सुन भेण दिए फरियाद हे दर्दां दा दरमाने हो सर बाबेदा मिलवाए एक वारी सर मकुबाबेदा सजाद भिरा मिलवाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा एक वारी सर मकुबाबेदा सजाद भिरा मिलवाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा ओ मैं कुप्यू मजलूम दहिक वारी मैं कुप्यू मजलूम दहिक वारी रुखसार जरा चुमवाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा एक वारी सर मकबाबेदा सजाद भिरा मिलवा मैं कु खाक ते नींदर नहीं आंदी जड़ा समझदी हां तन दुख वैंदा जड़ा समझदी हां तन दुख वैंदा मैं खुशी मेरे तमाचे मारे हो मैं खुशी मेरे तमाचे मारे हो मेरे रुखसार गवाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा एक वारी सर मकुबाबेदा सजाद भिरा मिलवाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा 4 सालां दी मासूमा दे ना सर दे वाल सफेद होंदे ना सर दे वाल सफेद होंदे मैं वांग ज़ईफ़ी हो गईया मैं वांग ज़ईफ़ी हो गईया या दुख बाबेदा खाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा एक वारी सर मकबाबेदा सजाद भिरा मिलवाए मेरा वादा है वलना रोसा अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद।
अस्सलामु अलैका या हबीब अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीर अल-मुअमिनीन व सय्यदुल वसीय्यीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या फातिमा अज़-ज़हरा सय्यदती व सय्यदती निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या हसन अल-मुज्तबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या हुसैन शहीद बिकरबला वअला अल-अरवाह अल्लती हल्लत बिफनाइक, अलैकुम मिन्नी सलामुल्लाहि अबदन मा बक़ीतु व बक़िया लैलु वन-नहार वला जअलहु अल्लाहु आखिरल अहदि मिन्नी लिज़ियारतिकुम। अस्सलामु अलल हुसैन व अला अली इब्न अल हुसैन व अला औलादिल हुसैन वअला अस्हाबिल हुसैन खुसूसन अखीका बिल फज़लिल अब्बास। अस्सलामु अलैका अइम्मतित ताहिरीन मिन मुल्दिल हुसैन अली इब्न अल हुसैन व मुहम्मद इब्न अली व जाफ़र इब्न मुहम्मद व मूसा इब्न जाफ़र व अली इब्न मूसा व मुहम्मद इब्न अली व अली इब्न मुहम्मद वल हसन इब्न अली वल हुज्जतुल्लाह इब्न अल हसन अल क़ाइम अल महदी अल मुंतज़र। अल्लाहुम्मा जअलना मिन अवानिहि व अंसारिहि व मिन शियअतिहि व मिन मुहिब्बिहि व मिनल मुस्तशहीदीन बैन यदैहि। अस्सलामु अलैकुम जमीअन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।